now I recognize myself for 5 minutes of questions. We'll move into questions. So we'll start with you, Mr. Strawhecker. Thank you for your amazing work in support of small businesses in Iowa. Very familiar with what you do, and thank you for it. I believe it's in our national interest to scale the best technologies with strong potential to solve America's challenges, no matter where they are located. What bureaucratic obstacles exist for small businesses who are new to SBIR, and what reforms should Congress consider?
Thank you, Chair Ernst, for that question. As I mentioned in my testimony, local support is critical for early stage development, particularly when it comes to learning about what these programs can and cannot do for companies. The expo that we jointly host in the state has done tremendous work in educating people about these resources, but it has also brought federal agency representatives to our state to have firsthand conversations with those business owners. That's where I believe the most work occurs, when someone can sit down with someone who can answer their questions right then and there and provide firsthand technical assistance in the moment, leads to significantly better planning as people start to enter this space. In 2022, the year before the expo was launched, we held a very similar event, and while it was impactful because it was the first one that we had done in quite some time, it was very difficult to get a lot of our agencies to come and have a presence at that event. Those that did come were blown away by the amount of innovation that occurs in our state. Thankfully, we have many more of them coming to our event right now, but in addition to the expo, the other things that were mentioned in the testimony, such as introducing a smaller Phase 1 award, will be very helpful, as well as increasing the transparency and feedback when awards are not approved. Thank you.
Thank you. And if we could move on to you, Mr. Rothside. In your written testimony, you stated, innovation thrives in a competitive market where the best ideas rise to the top. Over the past 5 years, just 10% of DoD, SBIR, STTR funding went to companies without prior government contracts. I'm concerned about whether SBIR is living up to its potential. And from what I've been able to see, a system so skewed towards the status quo and entrenched players is not utilizing competition to drive the innovation America needs to stay ahead. So how can we ensure real and open competition in the SBIR program?
Thank you, Senator Ernst, and I agree with you. It is not okay that only 10% of SBIR recipients are new entrants. This ought to be seed capital for the next emerging ideas. I think one of the major bottlenecks for that program is the idea of these esoteric, very nuanced, specific topics that are clearly wired for specific companies based on prior existing relationships with a company and government labs. If we can start to generalize the topics more around different technology areas that an innovator can come and create a new solution around, that is what's going to create disruptive technology for the future. It's also what's going to address the problems for the program offices that are responsible for fielding operational equipment to the warfighters. Mm-hmm. The labs have a different perspective with R&D versus the program office that are trying to deal with near and dear issues. Additionally, I do find it hard to believe that a company, a small business, can work on a myriad of different technology areas. For my startups, any more than 2 or 3, and they're very tapped out. So we sort of have to ask ourselves, why is there such a market efficiency where a company can still be a small business, but work across a dozen different SBIRs at the same time? Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, no, thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. And I will now turn to